My name's Emma Goodyear, I'm SEPA's wetland ecologist. My job's quite a varied role, involving regulation and licensing, but also as part of SEPA's research and development team, we look to monitor the wider wetland environment and understand the environmental drivers of ecological variation in our wetlands. So wetlands are areas of land which are saturated with water. Most wetlands, such as swamps and peat bogs, rely on being fully saturated, sometimes with water standing on the surface all year round. However, other wetland types may appear to be dry sometimes and are only visibly wet for short periods of the year, such as some wet woodlands or floodplain meadows on the sides of riverbanks. This diagram shows that Scotland has a wide range of wetland habitats, right up from our highest Munros down to sea level. For example, peatlands such as raised bogs and blanket bogs occur widely across Scotland, and in fact peatlands account for 23% of Scotland's land area and form in a cool, wet climate and account for a large amount of Scotland's carbon storage in the form of peat soils. We also have springs and flushes again from high altitude down to sea level, and these are reliant on strong outwellings of groundwater from bedrock aquifers and areas underneath the ground. We also have a number of surface water dependent wetlands such as reed beds. One of the biggest examples of these in Scotland would be the Inch Marshes, which is also an internationally recognised RSPB reserve. Many of these wetland habitats also support a wide variety of animals. For example, surface water wetlands on the edges of lochs and rivers can act as a nursery habitat for fish. Many of our upland wetlands, such as Blanket Bog and Wet Heath, support a wide range of game species which are important for Scotland's culture and economy, such as red deer and grouse. The map shows a range of broad wetland types, such as peat bog. You can see the brown-dominated area in the north of Scotland across the Flow Country in Sutherland and Caithness. You can also see the Cairngorm National Park, which shows a range of upland blanket bog, wet heath, springs and flushes, and wet grassland. The map really illustrates that wetlands are very widespread across Scotland, and bearing in mind that these are designated sites, there are extensive areas of wetland outside of these, shown as white on the map at present. Scotland has a wide range of wetland habitats outside of protected conservation sites. SEPA is working on a project which looks to map wetlands outside of designated sites using remote sensing, such as satellite imagery. Wetlands have been historically used throughout Scotland. For example, reeds used to be cut for thatchers, and wet woodlands were important resources for building houses. Peat has also historically been used as a fuel source and continues to current-day cultural use with peat cutting in crofts in northern Scotland. Many wetland vegetation types form peat soils, which are an important carbon storage and help to mitigate against climate change. Wetlands also have important water purification functions. They act to trap sediment and remove nutrients from water. Sometimes artificial wetlands are created for the purpose of removing nutrients from water, such as sustainable drainage systems and constructed farm wetlands. Wetlands also have an important role in flood prevention and management, reducing the energy from the water and helping to attenuate the flood peak. Wetlands also have an important role in recharge of groundwater and providing base flow to rivers, ensuring that flow continues even during extensive periods of drought. A wide range of wetland habitats are incredibly important for supporting species of animals such as birds, and many wetland sites within Scotland are designated as RSPB sites. The Flow Country in the north of Scotland has extensive areas of peatlands which are important for breeding wading birds. The state of Scotland's wetlands is generally considered to be poor, with a declining trend, and this is due to a range of human pressures which are making these wetland habitats change more rapidly than they normally would. There's been a change in upland management and land use within Scotland. Historically, large areas of forestry were planted on peat bogs, drastically changing their character and having impacts on the surrounding open habitats. Pollution is also a major factor affecting Scotland's wetlands. This can be diffuse pollution such as atmospheric deposition from industrial pollutants, but also nutrients from agriculture which reach wetlands through surface water flows over land. Historically, many wetland areas have been extensively managed for their water levels. This has involved drainage of land to change land use for farming and agriculture of what was once considered to be poor, wet land. This is now beginning to change, with many projects such as SNH's Peatland Action looking to restore drained peatland areas and to recover their water use. There's a range of international and national policy to protect wetlands, such as the Water Framework Directive, the Water Environment and Water Services Act in Scotland, but also new measures to protect and create wetland areas such as the Scottish Rural Development Programme. Important habitats for conservation are protected under the European Habitats Directive, and these can include examples of good quality intact blanket bog, areas of wet heath, and many spring and flush habitats. There are a wide range of conservation initiatives. Scottish Government are currently funding a project through Peatland Action, which is managed by SNH, to restore large areas of Scotland's damaged peatlands. There is a shift towards the ecosystem services approach, which looks to protect the function of habitats and to encourage the wise use of wetlands throughout Scotland, such as restoring their water purification functions and using them to help prevent floods. It's widely acknowledged that changing weather patterns will have a large effect on Scotland's wetlands. For example, temperature changes leading to drying of wetland habitats, but it's also thought that periods of heavy rainfall could lead to erosion, especially of exposed peatland areas in our damaged blanket bogs.